Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk with you guys a little bit about this misconception that people have with training, that because something is difficult, that it is somehow effective training or it's going to help them reach their goals more quickly. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on scaling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And this is one of the myths out there that people believe in that tends to get people to do everything from some of these extreme training to where they think they need to do 5 or 6 forced reps and drop sets and stuff like that, or jump all the way over into this leapfrog and grab ass stuff to where people hop around and leap around the gym and get hot and sweaty, but never really improve or get better or reach their goals. So a lot of new training methods, we want to call it that are out there kind of go in that direction. We see this stuff with a lot of the trendy stuff out there right now. So what people need to remember here is that I think Ripto put it best, and I think even I have an aunt who's doing a powerlifting meet today, and yeah, she actually is very competitive at the national level, and even her coach explained to her the difference between working out and training. And it's something a lot of people out there follow, they grasp, but you always see Ripto really promoting that idea, the difference between exercise and training. And that exercise is something you do looking for a short-term effect. You want to feel like you put in some effort. You want to release some stress. You want to get hot and sweaty. You want to burn some calories, right? You're looking for an immediate gratification. Whereas in training is a systematic approach that you take with a long-term plan for the express purpose of reaching specific long-term goals and outcomes, right? That's the difference, exercise versus training. And exercise in many cases can be really, really difficult. Training isn't always difficult. And what I mean by that is that training is planned progression, meaning you know ahead of time pretty much what you're going to be doing and what your game plan is, and it's there for a reason. Everything is there for a reason. It's structured. Because again, you have a specific goal that you are trying to reach over time. So again, it's about short-term gratification versus long-term goals. And again, exercise can be very difficult, but it might not yield you any progress. And I think people need to remember that when we start looking at things like even the resistance training end of things. And this makes more sense when you understand that progressive overload, whether it's progressive volume, progressive tension, whatever you happen to be doing to reach progressive overload, is the king of adaptation. And then that includes even being a better runner, even a better distance runner to a large extent. You need progression. But when you look at the data and stuff that's out there on lifting, I mean, this should tell you everything. When we look at the data, we find that going above 90%, right, above 90% of your 1 rep max does not produce any more strength gains. In other words, someone who comes in and trains with all-out competition maxes doesn't gain strength faster than a guy who does 90%. So in other words, if your max squat is 500, the guy who comes in and does a 450 squat for his heavy singles versus the same guy who comes in and does 500, if 500 is their actual max, the guy doing 450 will gain strength just as fast, right? If you're within 90% of your 1 rep max, going heavier doesn't really seem to produce faster strength gains. When we look at hypertrophy when it comes to muscle growth, stopping 1 rep short of muscle failure produces the exact same amount of muscle growth that going to muscle failure does. But people would argue there's a difference. You have a whole circle of thought in the whole bodybuilding world that training to failure is some sort of magical key to growth. Yet, when it's looked at, we don't see any difference. There's no difference in metabolites, there's no difference in muscle growth, no difference in muscle protein synthesis if a person gets within 1 rep of failure and then quits. No difference. But, people will take that whole failure thing because they get that ingrained in their head, that is somehow the key to muscle growth. And all that is an insurance policy, because maybe you might not gauge stopping 1 rep short of failure, right, on your last set. Maybe you're not in tune enough with your body to know if you got within 1 rep of failure or not, in which case it can be a good insurance policy for the less aware. But there's nothing magical about it. But because people get that idea, what do? Oh, I need to try to do forced reps. I need to do some rest pause, rest 3 seconds and have my spotter help me lift 1 more rep. Do force negatives, strip 30 pounds off and try to squeeze out a few more reps because I haven't reached failure. There's still a little bit left in there. when actually you maximally taxed all the upper threshold fibers, the ones that are most capable of growth, when you got 1 rep short of failure. So if 225 is your 10 rep max and you can't do an 11th rep and you stop at 10, you don't actually gain any more muscle if you try to squeeze out the 11th, or if you rest 3 seconds and then have a spotter help you lift the 11th rep. You don't actually recruit any more upper threshold fibers. You've already exhausted them. You're going to have to wait to do another set until you can actually re-stimulate them again before you can actually stimulate new muscle growth, right? And even then, you get diminished returns with each set you do that on. And it digs into recovery. So, it's just a balance of how do you want to space out your training through the week. So this whole idea that because something is difficult that it's somehow better is really ridiculous. And you see the same thing. You get people who will do all this random stuff. They'll jump into the gym and do just random things. And again, like I said, leaping around, hopping around, messing with some of these silly devices. And they think because they get hot and sweaty that it's been effective. I had someone ask me on my private Facebook, someone who's a friend on there, and I was joking about burpees, like, well, you don't find burpees to be difficult? I'm like, I wouldn't know. I've never done a burpee. But I can look at what a burpee is, and I can tell you that unless I was trying to use them for some sort of HIIT conditioning work by doing hundreds and hundreds of them, no, I don't think they're an effective training tool. Maybe for some people for some conditioning, but if you really think that you're going to be able to stimulate any sort of serious adaptation, particularly anything even strength related or even strength stamina related with burpees, you would have to be a really weak person to get a benefit out of that. And it doesn't matter that it gets you hot and sweaty, because now you're falling back over to conditioning. And as far as conditioning tools go, I don't know, I think there's better things out there than a burpee. I could drag a sled. I could do some farmer's walks, push a prowler. I mean, if someone's really serious about conditioning, I think that's the way to go. If you really want conditioning, or some barbell complexes, something like a burpee just doesn't impress me. I think there are more effective tools available to us. There's more effective tools available to us. So that's kind of the point of all of this. Just because something is difficult, because something gets you hot and sweaty, or because you perceive it as difficult in the gym, it doesn't mean that you're going to get the desired training effect. Because here's what it comes down to. Training results and getting long-term changes has nothing to do with how hard you worked in any one given workout. Because in fact, the harder you work in any one given workout, it could limit how soon you can train again. Or it can limit how you perform on your next training session, can't it? So everything is a balancing act. You've got this whole stress recovery adaptation cycle. And what matters for long-term results is how did you progress over time with what you are doing? How much work of various sorts did you add here, 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 and here over the long term? And no one individual session matters. What matters is what you did when you look at every session and how you accumulated training fatigue over the course of the last 6 months, the last year, the last 3 years, right? That's where your actual results come from. And it has nothing to do with your individual perceived exertion. And that's the same thing. I mean, you can do triple drop sets all day long with curls all day long, and you still might find that your biceps don't grow any faster than if you just really worked on getting your 5 rep max up on your weighted chin-ups. All right, it might seem like a lot more perceived effort. You might sweat a lot more. You might grunt a lot more. But again, realistically speaking, you can do that all you want, but I don't think it's going to produce any faster growth in that muscle than if you spent 3 years working on getting as strong as possible, say on your 5 rep max on a weighted chin up. You work on getting that up to a given weight consistently over time. Even if you never get to failure, you never even fail a set, never go beyond failure, never do a drop set, you're probably going to ensure better growth than if you came in and ran down the rack and did 5 drop sets on curls every time you were at the gym. I'm not saying you won't stimulate growth with the latter, but the other one is a more assured long-term policy. It's more likely to get you the desired result over time. And it's not to say you might not get the same stimulus by doing all that other stuff, and you might perceive it as more difficult. It might seem painful to do all those drop sets. So again, it's that perception of difficulty, but is it really more work? Is it really planned? Is it really guarantee that you're going to get anywhere? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. So that's what we're talking about here. Ultimately, what this comes down to is the difference between exercise versus training. Again, are you looking for an immediate gratification, how you feel during that session at the end of it? Do you want to feel like you accomplished something? Do you want to feel like you put in the work, or do you want to actually have a game plan that ensures that you reach your results without a massive concern over how you feel about any one individual session? And I'm going to say the latter is really what matters in the grand scheme of things. And any coach will tell you the same thing. All right, guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.